There's a whole realm of things in any business. Here's the business you're in, and here's 1,000 things that influence whether or not you're going to be successful. Through my experience in businesses, I can put myself in his position and say, okay, here are 900 of the 1,000 things he has to be aware of, and then go through and ask. And by how many of those or her issues they've been able to address already, that kind of gives me a sense of how hard they're willing to work. And I can tell by the questions they ask me. So all I have to do is say, okay, what do you want to know? And when they start saying, what should I do?
They ask you.
Yeah, and that's fine, right? And I want them to ask questions, but people like to say, the only stupid questions are the ones you don't ask, and that's not right? Because the questions you ask tell whoever more about you than anything else you do. Because in particular, it tells me about your preparation. If you ask me questions about just basic things that you should have known and you should have down to a science, that's going to disqualify you almost more than anything.
So I'm glad that Mark Cuban also feels the way I do, because these sayings like there's no such thing as a dumb question, or the customer's always right, or you want to make sure you're always the dumbest person in the room. Those things to me, they're just not correct, right? But let me talk about why they're not correct. Mark Cuban already told you that when he interviews people for positions to work for his empire that he built with his blood, sweat, and tears, that if he interviews a person and he gets to the portion of the interview where he has the people that could potentially work for him ask him questions, if they ask stupid questions that he felt that these people should already have known about or sort of been prepared, and that's an elementary question, so to speak, that would worry me. 100% agree. In my software company, I've ran across this a lot with some clients. We always say that we're the experts at helping you to put together an e-commerce store. We all know all the ins and outs of all the different integrations you need in an e-commerce store to function properly. But if every once in a while some of my developers go back to the client with like very elementary questions, sometimes the client hits me up and is like, man, I'm a little concerned. Like, they're asking me this. I thought you guys were supposed to know that. I don't know this. You all said you were the experts, right? So that's why that saying, like, you guys cannot cling to these sayings and sort of run your business by it, or like run your life by it and like treat it as religion. Like, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Of course there can be such thing as a dumb question. And look, you have the freedom to ask whatever the hell you want, but understand that in certain situations, when you're trying to develop relationships or you're in a business meeting, you may not always want to ask a particular question because you may spook the investor. You may, bring up like a question that'll just create a vibe or aura that people are going to look at you like, did you really ask that? Like, should you have asked that? You know what I'm saying? So just be realistic. Like, you got to be prepared. You got to know certain things. You got to understand what level you're at. And yes, asking questions and the eagerness to learn, that's a must for an entrepreneur or a musician. You should always want to learn, but you could simply go on Google and ask a question, so you don't have to ask somebody that you may spook, like I said, the investor. Let me talk about the customer's always right. Of course, the customer's not always right. But if you are a service-based business, or you are a, let's say an engineer in the music world, and you're working for a client and all that, you always have the freedom to not take a client, right? So if the customer's an asshole, which doesn't make him right, you have the power to decline that client. But let's be real, if your mission is more to just make money than to deliver quality or to have a happy business environment and happy business life, you may not say no to the client. You're going to shoot yourself in the foot, and then you may have to deal with it, right? But the customer is not going to be necessarily right. Again, it's up to you to figure out how you deal with that, because essentially, even though you're the boss and you got the business, you own it, you are working for the client, right? So you're not working for anybody at your own company, but technically you're working for your client. That's how it works if you're in a service-based business. Now, if you're a musician and you got fans, of course the fans are not always going to be right, but again, don't discount it. The fans are what is responsible for your wealth and for your popularity and all of that. And the last one was that, you should always feel like you're the dumbest person in the room. Like, I've interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs and I hear this all the time. It's like, what's your suggestion, for being great at business and getting to the next level? Well, I always wanted to make sure I was the dumbest person in the room because I wanted to learn. Again, that's not always correct. Don't live by that, because a very simple example, if you're going to be an effective teacher, right, in your daily job, is to teach students at a college level. You're almost never going to be the dumbest person in the room, right? Because you're the teacher. Same thing in business. You don't necessarily have to be the dumbest person in the room. Now, can you act, or can you have a business acumen to sort of make it look like that you don't talk as much, you don't always try to make it seem like you're right and always, speaking out loud when maybe you shouldn't, and sometimes keep quiet and make an appearance that you're sort of quiet. And when they ask you, well, why are you so quiet? Don't be like, well, because I'm the dumbest person in the room and I'm learning. Just say, hey, I'm just observing right now. I'm just taking mental notes. I'm trying to assess the situation. You know what I'm saying? That actually makes you not the dumbest person in the room. Many entrepreneurs and world leaders will look at it and be like, damn, all right, sometimes you got to watch out for that quiet person in the room. The one that's not saying much. You can't really tell if they understand what's going on or not, but they're certainly, hopefully, paying attention and staying focused. So I just want to make this video to simply talk about that these one-liners, these mantras, and all this type of stuff that you hear in business books and quotes. Be careful with that. You know what I'm saying? Be an objective person. Everything has so many different variables, so many nuances. So it's never going to be just one way. And you hopefully will have to figure out, or you will be able to determine which, thing you should be thinking about, or how is the relationship going to go, or, are you wrong? Is the customer wrong, or the business partner wrong? You know what I'm saying? So everything has so many variable points, and you don't want to always live by these one mantras. So, if you want to do a business deal with me, again, you may have to already know certain things for me to want to be able to get in business with you. Don't ask me stupid questions. You have the freedom to, but don't be surprised if I'm going to be like, yeah, well, you know what? I'm going to reconsider the situation. I don't think this is going to be the right situation for me, at least, to be a part of this, as an example. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. If you want to learn more about how to assess these situations correctly and just learn more about business, make sure you follow me. Hit the link in the bio. When you do, check out the NDR's Accelerator, because that's an environment, a community where all this business learning goes on. And look, there you can ask them questions, because I'm sort of your teacher. So it's a different environment. You have to assess again where you're at. That makes sense, and that's a perfect place for you to learn. Also follow me on Twitch every Monday, or check me out on Twitch on Clinton Sparks Show. It's called Win Big with Clinton Sparks. Another great show where you're going to learn a lot of different gems from a lot of different people that have won big in the past, and we're teaching you how to win big. Also look out for the live stream next week for Outside the Box, another dope interview that we did. I'm going to be doing a live stream on that, playing some dope music. If you guys watching me on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button, comment. You already know how to use the buttons below. It'll definitely help to get this video to the independent artists, musicians, managers, label owners, producers that should be watching stuff like this to get to the next level of their business. And if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Hit that notification icon as well. That way you get notified every time I drop these videos. And I'll see you all tomorrow, as always, for another day of Music Biz Daily. Peace.